Reich and what the Jewish people have promoted as the Holocaust, which is exactly what it was. By their culture, of course, they were being burned, offered up to God, and the Nationalsozialists did to them, or did unto them, what they had done unto the Canaanites. Now, this is not to rationalize or justify die final solution, or die Endlösung, as it is known in Deutsch, or the Deutschensprach, the German language. Rather, it is to contextualize it. There's a true karmic cycle that does evolve here, and by the time that that new Holocaust took place, die Endlösung, the final solution, then the Jewish people, of course, that survived, the 7th million, if you will, relocated en masse to establish the state of Israel. These are not Semitic peoples. These are not the children of Abraham. These are Turks who had converted to Judaism from a period that was fairly recent in history and after the time of Christ. So these ethnic aliens to the Levantine have established themselves as Americans in their biological, historical, genealogical, and theological ignorance say, well, these are the people of Abraham. Genetically, no. They are biologically, genetically distinct from the true Semites of the area, who are all Arabic. So the term anti-Semitism does not apply to Israelis because they're not Semitic. The term anti-Semitic would apply to the Arabs and those who work against them. That would mean that Israel is the most anti-Semitic nation on earth. This is simple logic. It has nothing to do with convolution. It has nothing to do with lies. It has nothing to do with propaganda. So, with Israel being a white settler regime, a apartheid state that has established itself within a Semitic region, ethnically purging that area so that they could grab the land, as the Semites had done once before from Canaan, the tactics are the same. The operations are the same. But the people are entirely different. These are not the people who had the Abrahamic covenant with God. Therefore, anyone who is saying, well, these are the returnees to the Holy Land, you are deceived. You are ignorant. You are wrong. You are standing on theological and genetic foundations of quicksand. But the Americans have bought into this lock, stock, and barrel, but many postmodern Americans no longer buy it. And that's because of people like Arthur Koestler, who himself was Jewish, who wrote the book The 13th Tribe, that outlined the real genealogical descent of the Central Europeans who invaded and established their racist, apartheid, Marxian state of Israel. They were all enormously, almost to the man and woman, overwhelmingly, statistically, atheistic socialists. So when an American says, we must stand behind the covenant state of modern-day Israel, all of the people in Israel literally think Americans are nuts. Now, your average Israeli thinks your American Protestant evangelical who says there's a covenant between their people and God, they literally laugh. They think these people, and it's not even that they're necessarily laughing down on you, but they're certainly laughing at you, because the overwhelming majority of people in Israel are irreligious, irreverent, and have an atheistic perspective, rationalist, materialist, profoundly scientific, cynical and pragmatic, and they really, and I'll say this for them, they really despise working with American Protestant evangelicals. They can't stand them. And that's to their credit, because who wants to hang around with someone who worships you as a relative of the boss, who basically says, oh God, I love you because you are the blood descent of my God. And they themselves know for a fact they have nothing to do with the original peoples you consider the descendants of your God. They have not established a Solomonic dynasty. They are not rebuilding the temple, nor should they. Nor should they even want to. So I would say this to maintain a balance of perspective. I am certainly not one to advocate the destruction, the deconstruction, the dismantling of the nation-state of Israel, or the financial republic of Israel, being a more proper technical term for the apartheid Frankensteinian monstrosity that stands astride the Levantine as one of the most powerful military forces in the world. If I were to advocate that, as I have said before, that in itself would be genocidal. Where would they go? Well, yeah, of course they'd all come here. And do you honestly, as an American, would you seriously advocate the destruction of Israel, knowing that at this point you'd have 5 to 7 million people relocate in New York and Miami and more than likely become your relatives? And these are people who are irreligious, irreverent, walk around with guns and firearms all the time. I mean, if you're a liberal progressive who's antithetical to firearms, you would not want Israelis around you. They walk around with loaded firearms in the street. So in terms of all of this, do you really want these people moving in next door and marrying your daughter? No, you may as well maintain the nation-state of Israel as it exists today, only if for no other reason on earth than to keep them from relocating to where you live. And in that regard, yes, maintain the state of Israel and see what we can do to try and create a situation of balance, of just and lasting peace between themselves and the people around them whom they exploit. Yes, exploit. And they exploit them in a number of fashions, mostly directly through employment, cheap labor. The Arabs around Israel are taken in as their version of Mexican gardeners, of servants, and they're cheap as hell, the Israeli peoples, and don't pay them what we would consider a living wage. I could go on and on for hours. Anyone who thinks that it's great to be an Arab living in Israel would be sorely naive. Now, the quality of life, technically, is much better. And not only that, they're reproducing. I'm talking about the Arab peoples in Israel. The quality of life, inarguably, could be argued to be, by material standards, higher than Arabs living in other nation states around them. But the other people are living in squalor because of the conditions of genocide and ethnic expulsion which the Israelis first created. So you have a situation in which these people are living in tent cities forever, for generations, between a cock and a hard case, as they say in prison, between the Hashemi dynasty of the Kingdom of Jordan, which was exiled from their own original Southwest Asian empire, which spanned Greater Syria, Iraq, the Arabian Peninsula, and now they are left with this spit of sand called Jordan that has no access to the sea, or even an outlet to the sea, other than the Dead Sea, which is quite the booby prize. Now, in terms of them, they were forced to intake all of these Palestinian refugees. They cannot support them, and so they set them up in tent cities, and like the people of Western Sahara, these people have grown up as exiles all of their lives. They have no place to go, and they wind up looking for jobs and improvement of their lot in life, or supporting their families, as Mexicans do by coming to the United States. They go into Israel behind the massive gates, work as servants, work the scut jobs as janitors, custodians. This is a sauté in hell created by Israel and the United States over Mexico and Palestine, wherein the people that they have oppressed are dependent on them for income. So this is one of those situations that can hardly be called just, and yet the Americans maintain an entirely irrational irrational, faith-based judgment system on the Israelis being the good guys. Okay, let's get rid of these delusions of good guys and bad guys and say that you've got a white settler regime in Israel, and at some point we're going to have to contend, as we did with South African apartheid, when it comes to adjusting them into the postmodern world.